Thank you so much for the introduction. Very happy to be here with this fantastic panel talking today about how we can use technology to create a future-proof personalized service for insurance customers. But without any further ado, I think I'd like the panel to introduce themselves.
Hi, hello. I'm very happy to be here. I am Genoveva, and I'm responsible in Allianz Partners of digital risk, device protection, and also what we call easy living, that is the assistance for the people.
Morning, my name is Jonathan. I am one of the co-founders of YuLife. We are a global financial services company on a mission to inspire millions of people to live their best lives. We primarily do that through group risk insurance and the YuLife app, which rewards people for doing healthy behaviors.
And morning, my name's Paul Webster, so I'm pre-sales director for a company called Fintech OS. So we're a technology player. We provide an InsurTech enablement platform that enables insurers to launch products quickly while giving them opportunities to revamp their core. In the UK, we work with the likes of Admiral, Howden, Hastings Direct, and Benenden Health.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to this. But before we start, may I remind you all that you can already ask questions. They'll appear on my iPad here. To do so, just go on the Brella app, top left corner, select the stage we are in, the digital stage, and then Q&A, and you can submit questions there. Do so, and I'll pick the toughest ones for our panelists. Just joking. Okay, let's give it a go. Let's start maybe with discussing a little bit about, there's always, who are where are these technologies coming from, right? Obviously, the big tech providers, they are seen also often as a bit of an example, right, on how you should go about creating new stuff, launching them, and giving great customer experience. But the question is, what can we learn from big tech when it comes to personalized offerings, and maybe even a bit of a step back? Should we learn something from them, and how, if so? Jonathan, may I start from you with this one? Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the answer is a hard no. We should not learn from them. I know often the answer is given yes and talk often specifically about their customer centricity. And I think that that's actually completely wrong, because most people, I think, we inherently know that when we use these products, we are actually not the customer, we are the product. People are the product. So for most of big tech, other than perhaps Apple, people are the product, they are not the customers. And they make their money by monopolizing our attention and then selling that to their actual customers, who are generally advertisers, etc. So the experience that we get is because they are trying to optimize their product, not because they are providing a great customer experience. And I think that within the insurance industry, we can do so much better than that. We should actually be focused on creating positive relationships with people and finding ways to help them and not just monopolize their attention.
Genoveva.
Yeah, I think I have not such a strong, let's say, view on this topic. I think there are things that we can learn from the big IT and digital companies, no? And I think most importantly, and we could talk a lot about technology, about data, but I think most importantly is the mindset, no? And they really have their customer interest. We could debate that, okay, in their core of their values and their purpose. And I think this is something that we need to learn from. I think, us and big corporations in general, we might be tempted to solve things by naming a chief digital officer, a chief customer officer, head of global data analytics, and hope that they will solve the topic of personalization, of customer satisfaction, of really being relevant for the customers. And I think this is something that needs to be consistent across the organization, needs to be part of the purpose and the values of the organization if we really believe and we really want to excel on bringing value to the customers.
Yeah, I think some interesting points there. I would suggest that the big tech guys are probably the absolute bastions of hyper-personalisation. You know, we've all been on Amazon and we get a recommendation based on our purchasing, whether we like it or not. Similarly on Netflix, on TV and films, you know, Netflix will chop off a trailer if they recognise that I'm binge watching. Apple are purportedly launching a health insurance brand next year using data from the Apple Watch. So I think these guys are generally getting it right. But if you look at what they have, they've got massive budgets, massive capacity. They've got the best algorithms, the best dev teams, the best data scientists. I wrote down a couple of stats. So Amazon do 136,000 updates to their systems per day. And Netflix pay the average developer 10 times the going rate. So we don't necessarily have that same luxury in insurance, but I think the prize is there. I think I saw a stat from Boston Consulting Group that suggested that if insurers get it right, they could potentially increase their revenues by 6 to 10%. So I think insurers need to look at how they can create quite granular or individual customer personas based on age, occupation, trade, whatever. How they can use that data alongside behavioural stats to drive personalised offers, and also how they can maybe unbundle some of the siloed insurance products to create combinations of really tailored offers dynamically. I think we do need to be a little bit careful about how we use data. You know, we've all been online researching something, buying something, and then we're in social media getting spammed by some relative offers. So we just need to be a little bit careful, I think, in insurance on how we use data.
Excellent. This is a great start. Yeah, I think just really to sum it up a bit, I think it's important to find a balance, right? I mean, it's important to recognize that big techs have been, investing a lot in personalization, in customer service. At the same time, what Jonathan said is also correct, right? And I think there we should really strengthen, how insurance has gone about it, right? So that we are very clear about what customers are purchasing. We're not pretending that people, can access things for free and then they need to give up a lot of their data, a lot of their privacy, almost unconsciously, right? So this is a really important point to keep for the industry, obviously. And, we're forced by regulators, but we should also do it so proactively, Paul, maybe I can stay with you for a second in terms of, you've been mentioning some examples already from some of the companies out there. What about within the insurance space, right? Have you seen case studies that you like to mention in terms of personalized services and offerings?
Yeah, I guess I can speak from a couple of examples that I've worked on. So I obviously work for a tech business. One's quite a straightforward one. The other one's a little bit more interesting. So the straightforward one, health insurer in the UK, quite traditional, single product, single price, single cover, irrespective of who you are or your occupation or your age. They've moved into really quite bundled, tailored health insurance based on individual need, and they've got a greater uptake and, interestingly, more younger customers. The other interesting one is actually in the US. So this is a business set up by a couple of e-commerce entrepreneurs, and they sell commercial liability insurance to online e-commerce sellers. So if you sell on Amazon or Shopify. Now, the broken model there was, if I was an e-commerce seller, I'd get a premium calculated based on my annual estimated sales. And if I only did 25% of them or 10% of them at the end of the year, it was tough luck. The price was the price. So what they're doing there is they're integrating to an e-commerce API called Rutter that provides real-time sales information, and we can tweak the price and the cover dynamically through the year. And for me, just quickly, I think there's a couple of learnings on the second example. One, the more up-to-date data you can get on a customer, the more you can personalise. And secondly, I think for certain product lines, it maybe leads itself to moving away from those annual contracts into more subscription-based, on-demand insurance that you can switch off and on when you need.
Okay, so this is an area that I've thought about quite a lot.
I thought it might be, yeah.
And the question certainly is not, can we personalize? Because we can. Clearly the data is there. The question, I think, and this is an insurance industry question, is should we? And the question is, how far should we go? I think you see almost the extent of it in telematics, where it's at almost per second evaluating your risk and then adjusting the premiums if you want to go down that way. In other products or other lines, it doesn't necessarily make as much sense, things like life insurance. But should we be really aiming for ultimate personalization? Because insurance is actually a communal social good. It only works with the law of large numbers when people get together to pool risk. Otherwise, it really just becomes an individual game, which insurance is not. And if you think about that ultimate personalization, where does it go? Within the life insurance space, you can imagine that it's using your Apple Watch, your Whoop, the rest of it, and you get a message after you've just walked out of Ben & Jerry's saying, we've just popped your premiums up by 1.5% because you shouldn't really have had all that high-fat, high-sugar food. Now, I don't want to live in a world where that happens, because sometimes the Ben & Jerry's is good for my mental health, although I'll probably go for Haagen-Dazs, but that's beside the point. So I think that we really need to fundamentally ask this question as an industry of how far we want to go, because the further we go down personalization, the more data we need. And then what happens to those people who don't want to or don't feel like sharing their data? Now, as actuaries, I'm an actuary, I know that what's going to happen is we're going to assume that the reason the person is saying no to sharing the data is because they smoke all day, they drink all day, they're about to have a heart attack, and they're literally about to drop dead. That's the only reason they don't want to share their data, is because they're the worst risk in the entire world. It might not be the case. They might just not want to share it. So when we go very far down the personalization route, we risk excluding people just for the sake of not sharing data.
I think there are different aspects of personalization, no? And I think one is the product itself. And I agree that it's dangerous to go into that route, and also I think that it would create additional complexity on our side, no? But I think when we talk about personalization, it's also about the customer journey, the customer experience, no? And how do we really reach the customer at the right moment of time, when he really needs insurance? And in that sense, I mean, we have done a lot of testing also with our travel partners, with e-retailers, and we do see that there is a benefit of personalizing this customer experience, no? And we can see that really the take-up rates are much higher and can be even multiplied by 2 or 3 times in certain areas. So I really think that it is a high value in personalization, but we need to take it carefully and really understand what do we really want to personalize and for what.
Yes, and to this point, Genoveva, I think I'd like to stay with you, because maybe let's step a second in the shoes of the customer, right? As we're talking about personalization and how we can meet their needs better, right? So what are the top, let's say, feature or characteristic traits that a customer would want to see in an insurer when it comes to offering them personalized?
Yes, I think customers in general, or people in general, we do not like insurance, right? I mean, we do not. I mean, we might be a little bit of weird people, but
you wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I'm going to go and buy an insurance policy now."
People in general do not like insurance, and they do not like to talk about insurance. No, so we need to make that thought on behalf of them, and offer them the product that is going to be best for the customer in a seamless way, having a great customer experience with a competitive price, and from somebody they can trust. No, but they don't want to take the decision themselves on how they want the technical product side. No.
Jonathan?
I mean, I mostly agree with that, actually. I think that people don't trust insurers, and that's the heart of the problem, and we have to work to build trust. I don't think price is the issue. I think if people value something, they'll pay for it, regardless. You see that with everyone upgrading so frequently, their phones, etc. Nobody needs a new iPhone every 2 or 3 years, but you'll spend £1,000 on it because you feel like you're getting something for it, and I think the same is true with insurance. So I think it's about building trust, and I think that personalization does go a long way to helping with that, but it's more contextual awareness. So I think the reason you probably saw the spike in people buying the products is if you contextually try and sell travel insurance to someone when they're going to travel, then that makes a lot more sense as opposed to when they're not. So yeah, definitely about trust building ultimately.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think there's probably 2 or 3 areas. One's availability. You know, can I access my insurer whenever I need, wherever I am? I think I've already talked about automation in personalisation, but sometimes it's access to a human being, right? If I've got a claim, I want to speak to a human, I want to feel empathy, I want reassurance. I don't want to be treated like just another number, which is the exact ethos of personalisation, right? I think I'd agree with the trust element. It's fair price for the right cover. It's treating claims fairly, quickly, not referring to small print. It's using my data ethically. And I think the big thing we've maybe missed is value. So to your point, insurance is a grudge purchase. We don't really see the benefit of it. It's a necessary evil. But we have got a little bit of an opportunity with personalisation to change this. So to kind of move away just from indemnity to risk prevention. Taking your point about Ben and Jerry's, but you know, we've got the Apple Watch that can alert us about health issues potentially. My 18-year-old daughter's got a telematics device in the car with an app that gives her information about her driver behaviour, hopefully prevents accidents and claims. If I've got a sensor in my home that tells me that the smoke alarm's gone off, or I haven't locked my door or set my alarm, preventing a home claim. So I think there's an opportunity there to wrap insurance up with risk prevention as an overall service that provides real value to the customer and potentially changes their perception of insurance at the same time.
Thank you, everybody. I think one aspect I think to consider as well is that when we talk about personalization, often then you can end up into a kind of proliferation of products and services, right? Which obviously creates also complexity. And this is also something coming from the audience. I see here already some questions coming in, and one is about this, right? Is that how do you find, and maybe Genoveva, let's start with you. How do you find the balance between the differentiation of products and services with also simplifying them all in a way, and simplifying the way that we as large insurers or insurance companies anyway they approach and they relate to their customers?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier, no? I think personalization can come in different forms and ways, and not always about the product itself, or not only about the product, no? I think, of course, there is certain adaptations that we need to make to our products to make sure, they fit into a certain customer group or customer segment. But I think overall, we need to be transparent, clear, and simple with our products, and really work on personalization, more on the customer experience, on talking with our customers, and make it easier and relevant for the customers to talk with us.
Yes. I think one of the words we've mentioned a hell of a lot today so far is personalisation, and clearly it's on the title, but I think personalisation is secondary to relationship. I think that personalisation is a way to enhance a relationship, and I think that's what's missing here, is that there's no relationship between insurers and the people that they look after. It's very much, I'm going to buy this from you, I don't want to, I have to have it, and I'll probably never benefit from this, and I hate you because you're awful and you're evil and we don't trust you. And you mentioned it earlier about insurance is a necessary evil. If you actually Google it, and I have, there's something like 1.4 million Google results for insurance is evil. That's really bad. It's really, really bad. That's in inverted commas. That's like, the exact phrase. So I think it's about creating the relationships, and personalization can help with that. But one of the points you touched on, which I think is more important, is redefining what insurance is. Because at the moment, insurance is a promise that people are worried isn't going to be fulfilled. I am going to buy this, and you're going to promise that you will pay me if something goes wrong. And the only time that you can fulfill that promise is if something goes wrong and the person's now experienced something bad. So insurance is always there's always negativity around it. So one of the things I think that's necessary is to redefine insurance away from claims compensation alone, but about risk partnership. It's about how do we create the relationship with the people that we look after to say this is a win-win. If you stay healthy, if you don't have an accident, things that people want to do, then we will both benefit from that. And yes, if something goes wrong, we will be there to step in. But let's create a relationship daily or monthly or weekly without necessarily speaking every day, because I don't speak to my mother every day, but I've got a pretty good relationship with her, I think. So it's about how do we create that relationship, and personalization is one way to do that.
Yeah, I've probably got a slightly different angle coming from the technology side of things. So I think when we look to personalisation from a product portfolio perspective, the last thing that we want to do is create a spaghetti of legacy that we can't upgrade from. So I've worked on technology projects around the world, and it's really, really common to start off a project looking at an insurer's products and they'll say, we've got 50 different motor products, for example. Now, the reality is they haven't got 50. They've got a problem with legacy technology. So every time they want to launch to a new demographic, a new distribution channel, a new affinity, a new brand, the only way they can do that is to create a new product in their old legacy software. So I think insurers probably need to adopt a bit of a global product portfolio management approach, where they break down the silos of existing legacy products. They kind of create a wider portfolio of benefits, perils, cover items, whatever, and then they bundle them back up dynamically using any combination of offers based on the individual needs of the customer. And I think if you do that right, all of those elements become reusable. You have the ability to change, to launch new stuff really quickly. If you embed analytics in there, you can see how your products are performing, and you can change, and you can iterate, and you can improve. And you also end up with a scenario that you haven't got 1,000 different legacy products that you can never retire. So I think there's a technology angle there that you just need to think about reusability moving forward.
Thank you, Paul. You've gone also a little bit into the next question, right, which is also coming from the audience in a couple of questions that are very similar, and it's about that, right? How do we overcome or do we use the legacy, right, when innovating, when trying to be more closer, when trying to be closer to the customers, more more offering more personalized services, right? But I think this is not so much, not only a matter of IT legacy, as it may be, it is also, but I think also was what Jonathan was saying, right? To try to build trust, to build the relationship is also a little bit of a cultural change, right? Both, right? In the sense of how customers see insurance, but also how insurers, they think about their customers and how they want to be perceived, So how do we, how do we go about, let's say, overcoming or using the legacy for in these challenges? What do you think?
I think this is a very difficult question, and I think especially big insurance companies, we are all suffering from it. So it's not an easy answer, but I think we need to work in those two directions. On one side, trying to simplify as much as possible the legacy from the past, trying to get rid of that legacy from the past. Take bold decisions sometimes and difficult decisions sometimes and say, we're very sorry, we are not going to be able to maintain this product or this software or this IT anymore, and we will need to do some radical decisions here. And at the same time, keep the pace of working towards the future. So having this dual transformation is something that we all need to work on, and it's not easy.
Absolutely not. I agree. Jonathan, Paul, anything to add here?
Not massively. I'd agree with your point entirely. I think there's strategies that you can use that mean that you don't have to do a big bang rip and replace of your legacy core, so you could potentially keep it as a system of record and plumb some innovation around the edges, and that might give you the opportunity to move on from legacy to be able to do some of this personalization stuff, but it's not easy.
Let's look a little bit maybe about the boundaries of innovation, right? Is there somehow limits we should be aware of, right? Can we, in terms of how we overall our thinking, our approaches, our products, services, everything, right? Obviously there are, right? But what are they, right? Especially when we talk about personalization, but maybe even in general, more about innovation in insurance, right? Where do you see limits? How can it go too far, if it can?
So I think, look, you know, a lot of years ago, we were working in a project that was aimed to improve, let's say, the way we were talking to our customers and really, you know, approaching our customers in the best possible way. And we had the idea of saying, oh, actually, you know, our agents can look in social media and see if somebody's pregnant or have had a child and offer them some kind of life insurance, no? And that is a big mistake, okay? We need not to be too invasive, no? People are uncomfortable when we go too far into this personalization, no? We need to be respectful, careful, and not to be too invasive.
So I think a lot of it just comes down to individual companies being brave with what they want to do and how they want to take the future. And you know, I was at another conference recently, and they were talking, well, for insurers, what's the most important thing? Is it the product, or is it the price, or is it the people, the customers? And everyone say, oh, it's a combination of all three. And it's not really true, because you can pick what's most important to you. Because you can have, if you look at the airline industry, you can have both Ryanair and Virgin doing the same thing, getting from A to B. Ryanair is unapologetically just going to be the cheapest. They'll give you a terrible experience, but they're still full all the time. And I think as insurers, when it comes to that innovation as well, we don't have to have an entire product suite. We don't have to have everything. And it's okay if we just want to sell on price a simple group life product that has no personalization whatsoever, but is cheaper than everyone else. And there's a market for that. And on the other end, there is a market for highly advised, highly complex, highly personalized products as well. So I don't think there's any limit on the innovation. I think it's more about not trying to be everything for everyone and just choosing what you want to be and then just going for it.
Yeah, I think that probably the biggest learning for me, I'll go back to the health insurer I talked about earlier. So they create bundled offers that are highly individualized, highly tailored to the individual need. So, you know, call that offer A. The most important learning for them was to give the customer choice and to make sure the customer feels like they have choice. So they might recommend cover offer A, but they also present offers B, C, and D and a whole load of options around that. So the customer needs to feel like they have the choice in there. And if you do it in the right way, if you present it in the right way, then potentially the customer is more likely to upsell themselves and you get a greater share of the wallet. The wrong way to do it, I think, would be to dictate rather than to give choice.
This is an interesting point, also because it comes to a question here from the audience, which in a way it's good. You know, it's very good because it's goes back to the to the beginning of the discussion, right? We are maybe assuming, obviously, there is this whole need of personalization, right? So the question is, how do we know the customer really want this whole personalized experience? No. And I would say maybe I start a little bit now also from our perspective. Now, obviously, we've done a lot of market research studies, interviews and stuff. And it's true in a way that, yes, there is a need for personalization also because customers tend to draw parallels from other industries and other things that they buy maybe more regularly, even that they offer. That, at the same time, going back to what Jonathan was saying before, right, maybe there are already still other priorities, right, in the way they would like to see their insurance, right? So it goes a lot back to the trust, to the clarity, to the transparency of what they are actually getting and paying for, right? So, for example, we're doing a lot of research on, we do a lot of savings investments products in Generali, right? And there we were trying to follow a little bit, the life cycle, and trying to be there in their most important moments without, invading their privacy too much. Right? And yes, it's important, right? For if you're there for them when a child is born, when someone gets married or anything. But at the same time, often the interviews were interesting because they were like, yes, but it's also important if you just, if this investment products, it's clear and I understand what I'm getting for and I don't have to pay massive amounts of fees, right? That would be maybe perhaps a better first step than really trying to be there whenever I'm doing something a bit different than usual. How do you study, let's say, the need for personalized innovation, if you do Genoveva?
So we have a huge customer lab, okay, and we run more than 10,000 customer interviews per year. You know? And so we try to be close to the customer and understand as much as possible what they really want and what is relevant for them. No, and in the base of that, we build up the different solutions that we have for our customers. And I agree with you. Personalization is not always, you know, the answer to everything. No, and even when you ask the question, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like says 60% of customers would like to have more personalized offers. No, but what that really means, no, is going back to the question: what does personalization really means? No, it's about having the right product at the right moment at the right moment in life, no? And this is basically how we work around it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not massively familiar with how insurers evaluate these kind of things, but from a technology perspective, I think, and a mindset perspective, I think there's a kind of a test and learn approach to this, really. So, you know, being able to launch something quickly, being able to get data back, analytics back, to be able to ideate, innovate, continuously improve. I think if you've got both technology and a mindset to be able to do that, to be able to test, launch, fail cheaply, fail quickly, fail in a nice, safe environment, that's kind of a good backdrop to be able to test these things out. Because it's not a big bang, is it? It's a continuous process.
Absolutely, that's something, you know, insurance have been getting much better at it, but still there is a bit of a cultural resistance sometimes into this trying to, you know, test and learn and fail approach, right? But you know, we are getting there. One thing we haven't really spoke about, perhaps, and maybe we can end the panel with this, is you know, distribution channels, right? And how you interact with the customers, right? How do you make sure that they feel closer to you and that you are offering them a more personalized experience, right? So a couple of questions here are about that. Can you really do that if you are moving to being a digital player, or to be really there for your customers and feel treasured and feel that you're offering them something a bit unique? You will need some human interaction, and if so, right, how do you balance, and you know, what should be the ideal mix of you know, humans, so agents, brokers, etc., and more digital approaches? Genoveva, what do you think?
So I think there's going always to be this kind of hybrid environment, no? For certain things, people prefers to have a fully digital experience. For some other things, they appreciate, like, and demand to have human interaction, no? And this is part of a personalized experience as well, to be able to choose how do you want to interact with your insurance company, no?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to be where people are at. Until we get to that day when insurance is bought and not sold, then we need to make sure that we are where people are. That is the way it is. So certain things, will be digital. Certain things will still be human-led. And as generations change, maybe it'll all just be on ChatGPT. We don't know. But for now, it certainly is hybrid. I'm on ChatGPT all the time. I'm just obsessed, but that's just me.
We managed to get till 2 minutes to go without mentioning ChatGPT.
Impressive,
and
indeed.
there you went, yeah.
Yeah, we still need to get Brexit and COVID in, and then we don't.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think access to humans is and will remain really important. I don't think it's any coincidence that in the UK, the likes of NFU Mutual, that provide real good access to humans, they always finish high up in the customer service surveys. So there's a great deal of validity in looking at how we still balance automation with human interaction.
Fantastic, thank you so much. I think we can close on this note, right? And Jonathan, there's still a lot of people, I can tell you, that among our ranks, they say that insurance will always be sold and never bought. So let's try to prove them wrong, right? I think we are here for that.
Yeah, I mean, so I can give you a specific example of where insurance was bought, because I know that this was something I made my parents buy back in the day when I was growing up in South Africa. And Discovery obviously has led the way in personalization and creating desirable insurance products with Vitality, specifically in South Africa back in the day, where if you had Vitality, you got free movies on a Tuesday night and at the cinema. And my friends all signed up, their families were on Discovery, and when I had to go to the cinema with them and they were all standing in the free queue and I had to pay, I went home and said, please buy this insurance. I had no idea what it was, but I wanted to buy it so that I could have free movies.
There we go. Free movies, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you for the audience.